Jake Smith from Bitcoin.com. We are once again coming to you from the Satoshi's Vision Conference in Tokyo, Japan. Today I'm joined by Coinbase's Josh Ellithorpe. Welcome, Josh.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you do for Coinbase?
I work on the crypto team at Coinbase. I also do some of the fiat integrations there. I'm a senior engineer. I've been there for about a year and really kind of bounce around a little bit, but mainly on the crypto and fiat integrations for the product.
Okay, so I understand you gave a speech today, and the topic of that speech was how Coinbase integrated Bitcoin Cash.
That is correct.
I've heard a lot of people asking you about that. That's not actually what I want to talk about.
Okay.
I understand that there was another speech topic you originally wanted to give.
Well, apparently you read my Twitter. When I submitted my first talk, it was about decentralization in a capitalist society, and really wanted to talk about what I thought a mature crypto network would look like, and working within a capitalist system instead of trying to fight against it. And I really wanted to give that talk, but the people wanted to hear about Coinbase, and they wanted to hear about the work that went into deploying and integrating Bitcoin Cash at Coinbase, and I understood the value that it would bring to the audience here, so I was happy to talk on that topic. And yeah.
That's definitely an important topic as well. Can you explain, what do you mean by decentralization in a capitalist system?
So what I mean is that right now everybody talks about users and small entities running nodes. And while I think that there's this kind of beautiful picture there, like, oh, everybody runs a node and everybody participates, I don't think that's realistic for a global payment system. And I think that there's significant scaling challenges, both in the routing technologies that are available and just overall scope of what we need to do, that really probably isn't the best design for a global payment network. So for me, I wanted to think about, well, what does it look like to provide censorship resistance, provide a way that monopolies can't control the network, but work within the business structures that we understand and we are used to today. And when I say that is, big companies currently are the ones that lobby governments and help pass regulation. Big companies are the ones that have money and incentives to put products on the market and to back the technology that they need to do payments. And there's an incentive system that I think works very well for larger scale institutions if we can build it out that way. And that if we have different disciplines that are building out on the network, that monopoly pressures really don't apply. There's no chance that JP Morgan and Amazon are going to merge. That's just never going to happen. They're in different disciplines. One's an e-commerce vendor and one is a financial systems and banking company. So if we have financial sector companies and e-commerce companies and large-scale brick and mortar companies in 200 different countries, and we have a set of miners that are mining nodes all over the world, and they are somewhat centralized, not a single entity, but maybe we only have 5 or 6 chip manufacturers, similar to what we have with CPUs today. If I have Intel or NVIDIA and AMD and Samsung and all of these people working on mining hardware, and expand that market, that mining set of options, so it's not just Bitmain and Bitfury and the couple that we have today, and we have enough companies that are incentivized to run nodes for themselves and for the users that they need to support on the next generation financial network. What does that look like? What if we have 40,000 businesses in 200 companies that are incentivized to be checking what miners do? Is that enough of a security guarantee for us to trust the network? And I would argue that it is. And when you have the small additional benefit of an end user running it even on prosumer equipment.
Prosumer equipment?
Right.
Like high-end consumer grade
Right, if they
hardware.
could run it on a high-end computer, right? Then you can have some hobbyists that are involved. But when you look at really trivial low-cost equipment, what's
the Raspberry Pis and the old laptops.
Raspberry Pi, what actual value does it have? If I've already had 25,000 companies agree that nothing is happening, and I'm pretty confident that they're never in cahoots, then the only benefit of running your node is if you want to like run your own SPV, something for your SPV client. And the security benefit of it is really, really minimal. And those end users, as the chain gets bigger and there's more transactions, have less incentive to pay the costs in order to do that. So I think we can build something that works within a capitalist environment. And when I say that, we If you look at internet access, most home user internet access in the United States is done by Comcast, and they do not have a policy that allows them to run servers on their connections, and they don't really enforce that very much. But if you look closely at the terms of your internet, you're not supposed to run home servers. That's actually a stipulation.
Would a Bitcoin node fall into the classification of server?
I think it would. And so if they wanted to filter 80% of the nodes that are running at people's houses by blocking one port,
they could say that behavior is no longer allowed.
Yeah.
And shut down all these,
right.
What do you call them, the consumer grade nodes?
Exactly. So, but then you look at a business contract for internet, and that allows for server grade equipment. They can run any services they want, and they're guaranteed not to be filtered on those internet connections. So not only are those nodes going to be more robust, they're more robust legally from being shut down based on the terms of service that we see in the industry today.
A frequent line of argument I see in the Bitcoin world is Bitmain is evil, Coinbase is evil, and the only rationale I see coming from these people for these arguments is that Bitmain is big, Coinbase is big, hence they are centralized and they are bad for the ecosystem.
So there's a lot of benefits to having multiple vendors in an ecosystem. Coinbase does its best to provide a great service to its users as a custodian and as a reliable platform for their interface with banks. And the reality is that there's a lot of money at stake when you're talking about moving between financial instruments. You're moving from crypto to fiat, and that's naturally a large money industry. And just because a company is profitable and large doesn't make them evil. And they don't see some of the products, and in Coinbase's case, we like releasing non-custodial products. Our Coinbase Commerce solution is fully controlled relationship between the merchant and the person purchasing. We don't hold the funds, we're not a custodian, we don't do that, and we can afford to be able to create those products because we also satisfy the investment class and other people that have larger amounts of money.
I think there are many services that can only be executed well in a large organization. Could the Bitcoin network be secured efficiently without a hardware manufacturer churning out this huge number of specialized machines, right?
So the reality is that I think we need more manufacturers. And I think Bitmain has a business model that I agree with. And this is a personal opinion here, is that when it comes to Bitmain, they sell their miners to anyone. Anyone that has money, that wants to take part in mining, can go and buy their equipment, and you don't need to worry about whether they're going to filter your access to hardware. That's fantastic. People forget that Bitmain didn't make money for years and still backed the Bitcoin network. They forget that Jihan translated the white paper into Chinese and brought this industry to China. And for people to demonize a company just because they were successful, I think is unfair, and you have to look at the practices of what they were doing. And I think that the problem is not that there is Bitmain, but there isn't more Bitmains. Like, why isn't Samsung manufacturing gear? Why isn't AMD manufacturing gear? But that's a question of scale and a question of profit at scale. And we need to grow these networks to incentivize the major semiconductor companies to get into the game. And we're already starting to see that. We're starting to see NVIDIA design custom GPUs for GPU-mined coins. And I think it's just a matter of time and growth before they look at the ASIC market and will be competing against people like Bitmain.
So Bitcoin being a permissionless system, nobody can really stop people from engaging in these business models, right?
Right.
There's no central authority to say you can't do this. So I've thought, what if everyone did just run a Raspberry Pi node at home, and that was the backbone of the Bitcoin network? Mining was still done on CPUs or GPUs. What is to stop a powerful attacker from spending tens of millions of dollars and completely overpowering the network with professional hardware?
Absolutely. The problem is that ASIC designs are inevitable for pretty much any coin, if someone has enough motivation to do so. And the question is the efficiency of said ASIC, right? So like maybe they can only create an ASIC that's 10 times more efficient than the GPU variety, or maybe they can create an ASIC that's 1,000 times more. But anytime you're building special purpose CPU equipment, it is going to be more efficient than something that is general purpose. The question is the magnitude of that. And if someone has a lot of capital, they can take the same chip and just manufacture more of it, because they have more assets and they can compete and outcompete other people. So it's always a race when it comes to the amount of profit.
If I'm understanding your argument correctly, so large companies like Coinbase or Bitmain, they can afford to run these business level connections that are harder to shut down.
Well, so
they can afford to hire lobbyists, for example, to protect their interests in government. They have more negotiating power with becoming integrated into the financial system. I think this all actually makes Bitcoin more robust, more useful.
Absolutely. You know, if you're working with regulators and working within the systems that we have today, that's the best avenue of success to be able to roll out these large-scale networks. And to me, working within capitalism is going to be a lot more efficient when we try to roll out these networks than fighting against every company that makes money along the way. And you want allies, not enemies. And a lot of these people are working very hard to grow the crypto space. They want to see crypto succeed. They want to grow the market share. And more importantly, they want better money in this world. And it's okay that they profit. In fact, I want more companies profiting, and then they can use those profits to try to fix some of the underlying issues that we've seen, whether those are regulatory or whether those are hardware-based or energy consumption. All of those things, research, development, lobbying, all of that comes with capital, and we're going to be far more successful if the people that have that capital are the ones that are fighting on our behalf.
I think we already see this. I know Coinbase is hiring protocol-level engineers, and in Brian Armstrong's announcement, didn't he say, you can work on whichever protocol you want?
That is exactly it.
So he's not even trying to focus on a specific cryptocurrency, just cryptocurrency as a whole, right?
That's exactly it. We're looking for people that are doing research and development in cryptocurrencies as a whole. We feel that the industry is young, and we see some solutions that have been on the market for some time, but there's a lot of ideas to be explored and a lot of optimizations that need to be done. And we're far from done with, you know, designing what is going to be this perfect crypto that actually will be adopted at full scale. And protocol developers, they need money to be able to do that research without strings. They need to know that their research, you know, you value their thought process, the value that they can bring to the ecosystem, and a lot of the ideas are transferable. When I'm looking at graphene, for instance, you know, graphene is a technology that they were talking about in the context of Bitcoin Cash. But that also has ramifications for Ethereum, it has ramifications for Bitcoin, and it's not just for one coin because there's so many similarities, at least in part, across these different cryptocurrencies.
To take the flip side of this argument, do you think that having large players like Coinbase and Bitmain, does that create barriers to entry for smaller entrants into the space?
So the reality is that you can go and you can use local Bitcoin. There's other ways for you if you don't want to use a fiat exchange. But you probably want a fiat exchange that is working with the most reputable banks, that has the best relationships with them. And those happen off of trust and time, and those are going to generally be the larger scale exchanges, just because if you see someone that has the best banking relations and the best way to convert that crypto asset, then you probably want to use them. Now, I'm always an advocate of people moving coins to their own private keys. That's why our Satoshi product for Ethereum is a non-custodial wallet that people can put on their phone. And we're a big fan of people controlling their own money. But there's a lot of people out there that need a custodian that can be trusted. There's a lot of people out there that need a brokerage house, and they need something that works, and they don't understand all the sophistication of backing up their keys and being able to deal with seed phrases, and they want something that just works. And whether they want to use it as a currency or an investment vehicle, there's people that are using it for both.
Some people also make the argument that by having so much hardware produced by Bitmain or having so much of American Bitcoin commerce go through Coinbase, that it has created central points of failure. Coinbase could be hacked, and what would the ramifications be? Or Bitmain is persuaded by the Chinese government to do something not good for Bitcoin.
So we already see mitigations happening in the Bitmain side. They've been moving mining equipment outside of China to other countries. They have capital, which means that they have an ability to build data centers in multiple government, multiple jurisdictions, and that protects them against something like just a Chinese crackdown. They realize their risk profile as well. They're a business. They have to be thinking about their risk profile. Now, when it comes to Coinbase, we do everything we can to protect someone's funds. And we go out of our way with our cold storage systems to make sure that we provide the most reliable service we possibly can. But the truth is that even if Coinbase was not around today, there's a lot of other services, and people can choose other exchanges and other services to do business. And just fundamentally, Bitcoin is something that doesn't need any of those players unless you need that fiat bridge and you can't get it from someone in person. And you always have that option. So I see the technology being resilient no matter what. It's a question of convenience and ease to on-ramp off of a fiat system. And right now, I believe that we really take the most precautions of anyone in the industry. And if you're going to use someone that is going to be that bridge to the fiat world to crypto, that's why I work at Coinbase. Is I genuinely believe that that is the best option if that's what you need.
If I understand your argument correctly, would you say that by having these companies that create value, make Bitcoin more attractive for other entrants, that actually creates a more robust ecosystem as other large players come in?
Yes.
So the decentralization model is not having a million Raspberry Pis, but rather, as you said at the beginning, if you have 20,000 large businesses, that is just as robust as, if not more.
Absolutely. You know, you're always going to get your selection of exchanges that you can do business with, and your robustness profile for the fiat gateways comes from how many options you have in the market. The reality is you can't have a decentralized exchange that deals fiat because you need a banking relationship, and that requires an identity. And so everybody talks about decentralized exchanges, and that's great. But how are you going to hook into a bank that requires them to know who their customer is? They're not going to power fiat through a decentralized exchange. That's going to be for crypto to crypto. There's always going to be a need for some intermediary when you're dealing with a centralized industry, which is the existing financial industry. And so that's something that people are not going to be able to get around.
So this concept, decentralization in a capitalist system, do you have any writings on this, or will you be presenting the
So I'm
get?
actually going to be doing a talk about this at Libertopia in San Diego. And so I have a time slot there where I'll be presenting my thoughts on that and kind of painting a picture of what I think a crypto world would look like if a currency is successful in 15 years. So, like, what does it look like if a currency won and people did adopt it at scale? Who would the players be? What would be a guesstimate of what that world would look like? And how robust would it be? And what would be the security characteristics that actually manifested in that world? And kind of walking that back and saying, well, if I have a picture of what I think the future looks like, can we figure out paths to get to that future? Is there a way that makes sense that we can realize that? Because I haven't really seen anybody try to paint that picture of what the finalized form of a crypto economy actually looks like.
This is an interesting idea. So for people who are interested, where can they find you on Twitter?
So I'm ZQuestZ on Twitter, and you can find me on there. I'm also on a lot of the chats, so you'll see me on Telegram chats and WeChats and all sorts of stuff. I chat a lot online. And then you can also check out Libertopia's website, and they'll have some more information about my talk as it becomes available.
Awesome, cool. Thank you for joining us. This is Bitcoin.com TV from Tokyo, Japan. Thank you.
Carry your own bank with you with Bitcoin, where only you have access over your funds. Send any amount of money to anyone instantly, anywhere in the world without any restriction, for pennies with Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com's wallet offers a secure and simple interface in multiple languages and currencies. Download the Bitcoin.com wallet today.